Hello, it's Imogen here with Body Intelligence in the next in my series of videos with my guest and friend and co-collaborator on teaching some courses and workshops now, Shay Seaborne. So Shay and I got to know each other when she first came to me for Alexander Technique lessons. And over our work together over the last quite a few years now, we got very excited about her knowledge of neuroscience and the neurobiology of trauma and how concepts and practices that we were doing in lessons and classes were really supported by neuroscience. You would say, and neuroscience says this works because. So anyway, so we thought we'd come on today and talk about what the foundations of regulation are and how they benefit us. But I'd like to start with the basic question is what is regulation? What do we mean when we say regulation? So you can take it away with, with that first question, Shay. Thanks.
I like to answer that by demonstrating the window of tolerance. And that's a bandwidth that we have, each of us has, within which we can operate functionally. And we can recover from little bumps like a scare or a startle or even an accident. We can come back into that mode where we operate well. We can think clearly, we can get along with people, and things go well for us. And that window of tolerance widens and narrows all the time, depending on what our resources are and what is happening in our environment and how well we can how well our resources match what's going on in the environment. So the window of tolerance, sorry, I went off track.
Regulation,
yeah, is about staying in that window of tolerance and being able to move out of it for urgent matters, emergencies, disasters, whatever, and have the capacity to come back into it afterward. That's really important. Without that, we can get stuck in either fight, freeze, flight or fight mode, or freeze and collapse mode.
So what I'm understanding is when we're regulated, it means that we're mostly operating in this optimal zone, the window of tolerance. And I guess the better regulated are, the bigger that zone is. But also it doesn't mean we never go out, because we have these fight flight responses and freeze collapse responses for a reason, because they're needed when things are more urgent. But they're not states that it's healthy, if at all possible, to be in for prolonged periods of time. So if we can have the usefulness of that and then be able to come back, that is what I understand as being well regulated, right?
Yes.
And dysregulated is when you're like stuck in either of those states,
or going back and forth.
Oh, okay. Like you mean flipping between the extremes, and
freeze
not
and freeze, right? Fight and freeze, and
yeah. Actually, I'm just
and it's not like there's a sudden switch and you're, it is a continuum. So it's a gradual coming out of your. It can be. Usually, it is a gradual coming out of your window of tolerance, and that makes it hard to notice unless you understand what's happening.
I'm kind of putting on my Alexander Technique hat for a moment. I don't want to go too off track, but I'm thinking from a kind of physical posture and movement kind of point of view, which isn't the whole of the Alexander Technique. It's very holistic mind body thing. But what we often see is that people might be living in the extremes of posture. They're either very tense and tight forward, or they're very, and that actually very kind of collapsed, slumped, and there's not much of this nice balance in the middle. And it seems to match exactly what you've just described about regulation. So I think we might have lost Shay for a moment. Hopefully she'll be coming back on. I wonder if her internet went out. We'll see what happens, and if she doesn't come back, we can reschedule this video. But what we wanted to talk about next, I'll just keep going for a little bit in case she can return. But what we wanted to go with next. Oh, are you back with us, Shay? Maybe not. Well, what are the foundations of regulation? Actually, as in what?
I guess so for now. We'll see.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the next question. It looks like you're syncing up here. Can you hear me? So as this happens, this could be an event that could really take me out of being in that more that window of tolerance. It's like, oh my gosh, where is Shay? I'm going to be interviewing her. But there's something in the practices we do that helped me, you know, not to say I wasn't a little uncomfortable or a little bit surprised and kind of thinking, what should I do next? But I think there was something to do with the way we've practiced, and I've practiced over my many years studying the Alexander technique and using body intelligence practices, that I hopefully met that with a little bit of calm. And I can
hear you the whole time and see you the whole time. You did well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And I see Gwen's been commenting and she appreciates my honesty. Yes. So, okay. So let's move on to the next question and let's see how it goes. So it's just, what are the foundations of regulation?
3 simple things, all connected. The first is a body-mind practice like body intelligence that includes interoception. That means fostering the ability to feel and to recognize and understand what's happening inside the body. And then finally, that plus a basic understanding of the neurobiology that we use and live every day. It's happening right now. And when you understand it, it changes your perspective on a lot of things and makes life easier. And then finally, a commitment to a daily practice, frequent small practices of this body mind with the understanding of the neuroscience. That's all. Simple.
It is simple, but it's not necessarily easy to put into practice because of dysregulation and all sorts of environmental factors from inside and outside of ourselves. And curiosity was something that you mentioned earlier too, that we're kind of meeting whatever we notice and whatever we do with the kind of playfulness and curiosity rather than I've got to do this. And that's
and your response here with when my little wheel was spinning was just that. You were curious and you were able to stay with it and see what happened, and you had the humor too. You responded to it with the lightness and humor, and I'm sure anybody watching would recognize that, and really that's the kind of response we desire to have, right? It would be so much better than going, arr, 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 what do I do? And so just having that little tool can make our life really different. And there's so many ways we can apply these practices in our life.
So in a way, that was a perfect example of, obviously we often are working with people who've experienced trauma and chronic stress, but all of us have these little stressful, unexpected things that happen often every day. And the more we can meet those with a little bit of pause, a little bit of calm, a little bit of a chance to choose our response. I mean, it's not perfect and we can't change our emotions, but we can notice them and give ourselves a little space, and have some practices that help.
And doing just that is part of what is innately part of my healing process. Being able to notice all the stuff that comes up because of the trauma and have that space. It seems kind of like a side benefit, but it really is key for me.
Yes, and I think the huge benefit of being able to have small moments of stress when we can respond with some choice, with some ease, with some calm, then can build some capacity for maybe a little bit bigger moment and a little bit bigger moment, you know. And there'll always be ups and downs because we're all human, but it also gives us tools that maybe help us recover a little bit better, that we don't stay dysregulated for quite as long.
And like you said, yeah, we can widen our window of tolerance at like, you know, more frequent level. It's not going to always be wide, but in general, we can have a wider window of tolerance. And yes, when we have more resources, like a nervous system that has experience being calm in difficult situations that were previously life-threatening, that builds the neural pathways for that kind of safety. And then that changes our response to our world and our life.
And I'm wondering how you're responding to your visitor on camera.
Yeah.
So this is obviously, we are doing this topic for a reason, because unexpected things happen all the time. So that's some of the benefits. Are there any other benefits that you wanted to talk about? You know.
Yeah, so dysregulation comes from hypervigilance, and that causes all kinds of problems in our bodies, and it comes out in physical symptoms like short temper, anxiety, depression, many mental, and Dr. Gabor Mate says all mental health conditions, and also lots of physical conditions, arthritic pain, diabetes, even cancer is linked to chronic stress. So if we can reduce our overall stress, even if we have these diseases already, if we can reduce our allostatic load, that means how much strain is on our nervous system, we will find relief across the spectrum. When you reduce the hypervigilance, you reduce the symptoms, and then you have a better life.
Yes, and I want to say that there's not an exact cause and effect with these diseases and conditions, but you know, it's not like if you're stressed, you are going to get diabetes. There's not that, because there's lots of other factors, and
but there's so much data that shows there's shockingly high correlations between chronic stress, especially developmental trauma type, and basically all social ills and chronic diseases. So
I can believe it.
It's not if we could erase all the chronic stress in the world immediately, it wouldn't erase all the diseases, but a lot of them would be gone. Or reduced. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about kind of practical benefits at work. If you can imagine, if you can respond with a little bit more calm to I don't know if people could hear I had a call coming in then. So, oh good. That was another unexpected thing. Just obviously this is the video for a little unexpected events to be happening. But the more that you could respond to an unexpected request from a boss, a snide remark from a coworker, just another email.
Mm-hmm.
If we can have some capacity to respond so that we stay a little bit more regulated, it can help us be clear-headed in how we answer questions, or whether we say yes or no to a new project, or whatever it is. And obviously that can transfer to home and relationships and all sorts of interactions that we have.
Even just even understanding the neurobiology of the pause and taking whatever kind of pause, whether it's one of the practices we use or one of the like polyvagal exercises we talk about, doing a delighted sigh, like, oh, there's an email from that person that always jacks me up. How about, oh, but I can change my internal state if I take a pause and say, ah. And that's not going to make that person less of a jerk, but it's going to make their effect on you less, because you're taking charge of your nervous system before it gets really jacked up. And maybe you want to do 5 or 6 of those before you answer that email.
Yes. So moving on, how, Shay, might one learn the foundations of regulation for oneself? I don't know why I've gone into one and oneself, but
because you're from across the pond, I'm sure.
That must be it.
Well, I think the best way is to take our course. Of course.
Indeed.
Yeah. But you can learn it on your own if you want to. Just take those 3 things and Google and try things that work for you. The benefit of working with us, though, is that you've been doing the body intelligence and refining that for how many years now?
Well, I've been studying Alexander technique for over 20, and kind of over the last several years, I've really kind of developed my own way of doing things, which has many influences, which I'm calling body intelligence. But yes, several years.
And then when you add the neuroscience to that, it really it saves you all the trouble of having to learn this, figuring it out. I've spent about 8 years studying the neurobiology of trauma intensively to save my own life. And you don't have to do that. You could learn this by reading and listening to all the things and living the lifestyle I lived for years if you want. But you could also learn this with the body intelligence and enjoy a really nice environment where it feels safe to do this work, even if it's kind of scary, which can be for people, especially with a lot of trauma. And just the support for doing the practices and the encouragement when somebody comes to the second class and says, oh, I was in a car accident and they totaled my car, and normally I would flip out at something like this because I have car trauma, but I remembered that one practice we did and I did it this much and I didn't have a panic attack, and it made everything a whole lot less worse. That when that happens. And that doesn't happen every time, but those kind of things happen a lot.
Yes, hopefully you don't have a car accident between the first and the second class. And talking about regulation, there's another thing that happens, because it's a group, it's a small group, it's fairly intimate, but there's a co-regulation that happens when we're with other people that are supporting each other, and we're all doing things together that help calm our nervous systems, and it kind of amplifies the effect even over Zoom or online. So it's
and those connections build through the class as people get to know each other a little bit and share how the practices are working for them and how it's affected their lives. It really is a really nice place to be, and having a group kind of gives you that the commitment and something to look forward to. Like, oh yeah, I was going to do this week, and it's Friday and tonight's the thing, so maybe I'll do it once right now, and then eventually you're doing it during the week and making it part of your dynamic healing framework.
Yes, indeed. So is there anything else before we finish up with this this video today? Anything unexpected you want to add to it?
Well, we got I think we got three for three, so that's the lucky number. Just encourage everybody to mind your nervous system, pay attention to what's going on, and if you're jacked up, do something about it so you don't end up like me. That's my new motto.
Yes. So our online course starts a week today. It's around this time that it would be starting. That's at 5 p.m. Eastern. It's 4 weeks, the foundations of regulation, of course, and it's 4 90-minute classes. So I'll put the link to information about that under the video if you would like to check it out. And please feel free to get in touch with either one of us if you have questions. We're here. We'd love to answer your questions. We'd love to welcome you into the course if it's of interest to you. Thank you, Shay.
Thank you, Imogen.